right. Hello, everyone. Hello, English readers, and welcome to Lydie's Book Club Live Read Along. I'm Lydie Bureau, and I'm an English teacher in France. I'm also the founder of Lydie's Book Club, in which I host live readings of adaptations of classics or contemporary novels of English literature. Once a week, I meet the members of the book club in a live workshop via Zoom to discuss the chapters read during the live readings over the week. In this book club, I tend to prioritize books that are written by women, and this month we are reading the graded reader adaptation of White Teeth. And over the next 3 weeks, I'm going to host 9 live reading sessions on Instagram, so you can watch on replay on Lydie's Book Club YouTube channel, and also on Spotify podcast Read in English. In addition to these live reading sessions, I will also host 3 live workshops on White Teeth. And these live workshops will be hosted also on Zoom over 3 Saturdays. And these live workshops are only accessible for people who are members of the book club. So if you want to attend those live workshops and discuss the book, then I invite you to subscribe to the book club via the link in the description. And through this link as well, you will be directed to the website page and homepage, and you will find all the dates of those live workshops, and also the dates of the live reading sessions as well, because I'm not doing the live reading sessions every day. So they are a schedule for these live readings as well. And you can find all the dates in the description of all the video, all the links, sorry, in the description of the video. Also, just to remind you that you can now purchase the 3-part live workshop on Jane Eyre on my website store. You can, once you purchase this workshop, you'll be able to access the videos whenever you want with your login. So you will have access to a little dashboard of the workshop. And this workshop was hosted last month on the novel Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. So I hope you will enjoy watching these live workshop sessions. So today we're going to read chapter 9 and 10 together. And if you'd like to know more about Zadie Smith and her novel White Teeth, then I invite you to listen to the podcast episode 21, an introduction to Zadie Smith and White Teeth, available on YouTube and Spotify podcast as well. Well, let's get started. So I'm going to do a quick recap on the chapters that we read last session. I can't remember when it was. Wednesday, I think. Yeah. So Wednesday we read chapters 7 and 8. And in these two chapters, we found out that Samad decided to send Majid to it's Majid, yeah. Majid, the eldest, well, they're twin sons, so it's the eldest of like 2 seconds, I think. So he sent his son Majid, who is the one that is the more the most he's a good boy. He is clever as well in school. He works well in school, and he decided to choose his well behaved son, Majid, and he did that without asking his wife permission or asking her her advice, and or just informing her that early in the morning he will take the flight and send and go with his son, bring his son back to Bangladesh for him to grow up there. And that was something that Sama, that Alsana, Samad's wife, as understandably did not handled well. She is very upset against Samad because she completely disagree with this decision. To her, Bangladesh is a very dangerous country, very unstable and dangerous in a sense that there are terrible storms, or and the fact, not necessarily about the weather, but the living condition are very unsafe. The houses are not very strong, not well built. So she doesn't want, she's scared that her son, that something will happen to her son. And there is this, actually the storm, and Majid was not, had just a nose, a broken nose after this terrible storm that happened in Bangladesh. And Alsana was terrified that something had happened to her son, but luckily nothing happened to him, and he was well. And Milat, the second son, is more the troublesome one. And he's also making fun of his brother as well. And well, with a particular scene when Majid sent a video of himself saying that he's safe, Milat is making a joke that his father doesn't understand, and he is yes, he's very is also very unkind towards Irie. This girl is this young girl is Archie and Clara Bowden's, well, not Bowden anymore, but Clara and Archie's daughter. So they know each other because their parents are friends, and they're seeing each other. They live quite close to each other as well, and they grow up together. And Irie is is quite smitten with Milad. She likes him very much. She's quite in love with him, and unfortunately, Milad is very harsh towards her. He's saying she's fat and that she's not. Yeah, and he's also joking about the fact that he knows that she is in love with him, and he's taking advantage of her as well, and he's putting her down also, just to and he's just being mean towards her. So that's what mainly happens in chapter 7. In chapter 8, we are doing like a big flash forward into the future when Milad and Irie are about maybe, yeah, they're teenagers, maybe 16, 17. No, yes, probably, yeah. And Milad is going to this protest with his friends, and he's being quite rude to the ticket officer and joking with his friends, and smoking as well in school when it is forbidden. And he's kind of and because Irie is going also to the same school, she looks up to him. She admires him. She wants to spend time with him, be around him. And Milad has a very negative influence on her because they are going to be caught smoking in the school, and will be taken to the headmaster or headmistress, or the head teacher, the headmistress of the school, and their punishment will be to attend lessons with Joshua, a boy that is good in science, to teach them to give them to give them some lessons, or to like a mentoring session, tutoring, to help them get better in these subjects like math and biology, because they don't have good grades. So that's their punishment. They will have to attend those sessions at Joshua's house. And Joshua Chalfin is is a white boy from parents that are quite educated. Mrs. Chalfin is a writer. She writes about gardening, and his dad is a scientist. So they are quite educated. It's a family that is that we could consider as middle class, well bred, and educated as well, intelligent. Well, educated would say they've studied, And yeah, so that's where we start on Wednesday. And now I'm going to start reading chapter 9. Joyce and Marcus Chalfin. Joyce and Marcus Chalfin had a happy marriage. They met when they were students at Oxford University in 1969, and she had known immediately that as she saw his intelligent eyes noticing her legs beneath her short skirt, that he was the man for her. They married soon after. Then they moved to London, and she started to write books. Even she was amazed at their success. It had taken her only 3 months to write The New Flower Power in 1976, while Joshua was a baby. Marcus had also written a book, Mice and Genes. The genes, the ones that you have in your body, not the genes, the clothes, genes, Genes. He's a scientist. But Marcus did not just make money. Marcus did not just make things. He created things that could not be imagined. He created rabbits with strange skin, mice with strange feet, whose bodies did whatever Marcus told them to do. And he did it with medicine in mind. He wanted to help doctors fight the worst diseases like cancer. 15 years later, and theirs was still the happiest of marriages. More books and 3 more children had followed Joshua. All 4 children were doing well at school, and this was despite sending them to Glenard Oak instead of a private school. So Glenard Oak is a state school. So state school, or in America, they would say public school. So it's not private, so it's funded by the government. The children all loved their parents, and unusually that love grew as they got older. They never argued, except sometimes about politics. The couple had no friends. They only needed their children and each other. And yet, Joyce missed the golden age when her children needed her, and she was the most important person in the Chalfin family. But now, even her youngest, Oscar, could make himself something to eat. She was bored. Everything was too perfect, and there was no one to admire Chalfinism, as Marcus liked to call it. Then one day, Milat Iqbal and Irie Jones walked into her life. She was in the back garden at the time, checking her roses, when the doorbell rang. A few minutes later, Marcus shouted, "Joyce, Joshua and his cigarette-smoking friends are here." Beautiful. That was the word that first came into Joyce's mind when Milat Iqbal stepped forward into her garden and made a face at Marcus's bad jokes. Beauty in a tall brown young man who should not have looked different from those that she regularly bought milk and bread from, or who helped with her tax. Milat Iqbal and Irie Jones, said Marcus, coming out into the garden behind them and quite obviously admiring Irie's breasts. I just said to Josh they're the best-looking friends of his we've ever seen. Usually they're small and thin and wear glasses. Joyce came forward and took off her garden gloves. She shook hands with Milat, then Irie. "You are a big girl," she said. Thanks," said Irie. We like that here, said Marcus, as they all followed him into the large garden. That's what we like, a healthy eater. I never put on weight, but Joyce does, in all the right places, of course. Are you staying for dinner after you finish studying? What kind of tea would you like? We have strawberry or apple or normal tea, of course. Iris stood silently, too nervous to speak. These were not like any kind of human she had met before. She was pleased, amazed even. She had never met parents who spoke to children like they were adults, or offered them different choices of tea. So you're the two who've been corrupting my oldest son? Joyce said with a smile, but she was watching Milat at the time. Well, you look very dark and interesting. Where are you from, if you don't mind me asking? Willesden, said Irie and Milat at the same time. Yes, of course, replied Joyce, but where originally? East London? Milat shrugged. The Royal London Hospital. Joshua and his 3 brothers had entered the kitchen and were standing round listening and watching. At this, all 4 boys started to laugh. Then Joyce started to laugh too. It wasn't that funny, said Milat, taking out a packet of cigarettes. Are you going to smoke one of those? Said Joyce. In here? Only we hate the smell. Oscar really hates it, don't you, Oscar? No, said her youngest boy. I don't care. I'll take it to the garden, Milat said slowly, like he was talking to mad people. Be back in a minute. He's lovely, isn't he? Said Joyce as soon as Milat left the kitchen. Are you and he? No, said Irie, feeling like she wanted to tell these people everything. We're not. Probably a good thing, Joyce said. I'm sure his parents are planning something for him. He's Muslim, isn't he? But he's not like most Muslim children. They are usually so quiet, but he is so loud and doesn't care. But boys like that want blonde girls, don't they? I know how you feel. I used to like the boys who were trouble. You'd do much better with someone like Joshua. So we can consider, or we could say that the mother, Joshua's mother, Joyce, is quite forward. She is very direct towards the children, towards Milat and Irie. And as you might have guessed, the question where you're from originally wasn't really this kind of answer that she expected. So this is also why they're laughing here and mocking in a way. So here is now considered as an insidious kind of racism, or systemic racism, this kind of inappropriate questions, and not very without tact, quite forward as well, and a little bit disrespectful in a way. 4 months passed, and Irie realized that she was learning a lot of things from the Chalfins. Her science grade had greatly improved. Milat's had not. And when he came to the Chalfins, he was usually rude and smoked cigarettes all round the house. But Joyce never seemed to mind. She had decided that his home life was the cause of his problems, and there must be a huge sadness inside him. He needed love, and she wanted to give him that love. Joshua saw that his mother seemed to love Milat more than him, and also saw that Irie, who he liked, still loved Milat. He also knew that having Milat as his friend had made him much more popular at school, but he did not care. He was pissed off. Pissed off here is in bold in the text, and pissed off being that he's annoyed, but is much stronger. It's kind of a colloquial expression, an expression that you would say, that you use when you speak usually. It's quite slang sort of. Yeah. Irie was pissed off about it too. The better her grades got, the less interested Joyce seemed to be in her. But the more Milat went wild, bringing round girls, smoking and drinking their expensive wine, calling Bangladesh on their phone for 3 hours, and telling Marcus and Joshua to piss off, the more Joyce seemed to love him. In 4 short months, he already owed her £300 and a bicycle wheel. Oh, she also even lended him money. Wow. Soon after Irie arrived, Marcus had invited her to his study at the top of the house to show her pictures of his mouse experiment. So Marcus, remember, is the dad. His work was interesting, but his study was a mess. Study is his office. The study is that's like a room in the house where you have your desk and when you're working. Yeah. His study was a mess. It was small with a low ceiling, which made it impossible to stand in some places. There were a dozen or more filling drawers that had papers falling out of them. Around the room were photos, mostly of Marcus and Joyce when they were younger, and some of the children. But there was also one of a man, which Marcus pointed to. That old Frenchman taught me a lot, he said. Almost everything I know. Now, where are those pictures? It took him a long time to find the pictures. There were photos of a mouse on its back with cancer, which looked like mushrooms coming out of its stomach. He showed her others of mice in different positions with bigger cancers in different places. We know exactly when and where it will get the cancer, he said. This will really help us to fight cancer in the future. Oh, this drawer is such a mess. Marcus tried to shut it 3 times. Finally, he kicked it. Bloody thing, he shouted. You need smaller paper, and you need to fold it properly. Harry said, fold it properly? Marcus said, look, how about this? I'll pay you £15 a week if you come round and do my filling for me. You'll earn more from me, and I'll get my filling done. Is that a good idea? It is, sure. It sure is, said Irie. When do I start? So that's the end of chapter 9 now. So here now is Irie helping Joshua's dad with the folding. And remember that Irie's dad works in a printing company where they fold papers, so she knows about folding papers. Okay, chapter 10. The root canal of Hortense Bowden. Remember Hortense? So here again, the root canal. Remember the expression, Katie? It's the root canal is a reference to part in the teeth, inside the teeth, and it's also it's an expression also to talk about the origins of a character or the past of a character. And Smith here uses this term, this medical term of root canal, a dental term. Well, medical term, or in relation to the teeth, to talk about the past of a specific character. And here's Hortense Boden, who is Clara's mother. Okay, so it's Irie's grandmother, remember. Clara and Alsana were not very happy about their children spending so much time at the Chalfins. Alsana was now sure that it was their house that Milat went to when he stayed away from home for long periods after arguing with his father. And Clara only saw Irie 1 or 2 nights a week. For months, it had been the Chalfins this and the Chalfins that. Joyce said this wonderful thing, and Marcus said something really clever. But Clara did not like to make trouble, and she had always wanted what was best for Irie. Archie only saw his daughter for minutes at a time, when she came home to shower, dress, or eat, and he did not seem to be worried. But Alsana was angry and frustrated. In the end, she sent niece of shame, remember, it's, what's her name, Nina? I think, niece of shame, remember? It's how she calls her niece, Nina, I think that's her name. Yeah. She sent niece of shame round to the Chalfins' house with Irie and asked her to report back. And after spending an evening having dinner with the Chalfins, Nina came home and for the first time had to agree with her aunt. "They're crazy," she said. "All of them." Joyce asked if it was difficult for Muslim women to cook when they are wearing those long black sheets. "Doesn't the arm get covered in food?" "Yes, crazy fruitcakes made..." Oh, sorry. Yes. Doesn't the arm get cover the food? Okay. Yes, crazy fruitcakes made mad like a box of frogs. But no one knew what to do with this information. Irie and Milat were now 16 and never got tired of reminding their parents that they could now do what they liked. The law said so. Alsana and Clara could not lock their children in. If anything, it got worse. Irie spent more and more time learning about Chalfinism and seemed embarrassed by the way her father and mother spoke. Milat went away for weeks and came back with money that was not his. His voice moved widely from the intellectual Chalfins to the street talk of the Kevin gang. Remember, the Kevin is this acronym of this gang in, North London, based in North London. It made Samad very, they're Islamist or something like Islam is a group that is keepers of the eternal and victorious Islamic nation. So we could consider them as Islamists group. It made Samad very angry because Milat was not one definite thing. He was not a Muslim or an Englishman or Bengali. He lived in between. If Majid was here, he would stop you. It would stop you two arguing, Alsana shouted one evening. He has a lawyer's mind, but Majid was not here. He was there, Bangladesh. and there was still not enough money to change the situation. Then the summer came, and with it, exams. Irie came second in science after Joshua, and Milat's grades were much better than anyone had expected. Alsana just said, Iqbal brains. In the end, they win. But Clara knew it was because of the Chalfins, and she finally decided to visit them to say thank you. So here we see that Clara is more thankful towards Chalfins' work and help with their daughter than Alsana here. Joyce began by showing her the house, and that's Dr. Solomon Chalfin, Marcus' grandfather, she said, stopping at the photograph in the hall. He was listening to Freud when everybody in Vienna thought that Freud was crazy. The first time Marcus showed me that picture, I knew that I wanted to marry him. I thought if Marcus looks like that at 80, I'll be a very lucky girl. Clara smiled at Ari, stood silently behind her. It's a big family, Joyce continued. And Clara, is it all right to call you Clara? Clara nodded. Clara's fine, Mrs. Chalfin. Ari waited for... So you see, Clara doesn't call her Joyce. She says Mrs. Chalfin. Ari wanted for Joyce to ask Clara to call... Yeah, so here, Ari waited for Joyce to ask Clara to call her Joyce. Well, as I was saying, it's a big family, and I like to think of Ari as part of it. She's such a special girl. We really enjoyed having her around. She owes you a lot, replied Clara. We all do. Oh, no, said Joyce. I think as intellectuals that it's our responsibility anyway. It's been a joy. And I'm so pleased we have finally met Clara. So which side do you think Ari gets her brains from? The Jamaican or the English? What a question. Clara looked at the long row of photographs, all of white men, some with glasses, some in uniform. They all reminded her of her own grandfather, Captain Charlie Dunham. In the one photograph that Orson's had of him, the Bowden family called him Whitey. That fool boy thought he owned everything he touched, they said about him. My side, said Clara carefully. I guess the English on my side. My grandfather was a rich Englishman. His child, my mother, was born during Kingston earthquake in 1907. He taught my grandmother all she knew. A good English education. I can't think who else it could be. How interesting. I always say to Marcus that it's the genes. He says it's too simple, but I'm proved right every time. The genes of the whites, the genes of the English people. English people are the people that are intelligent, more intelligent than Jamaican people. At the front door, closed behind her, Clara bit her lip with frustration and anger. Why had she said Captain Charlie Dunham? That was a lie. As false as her own white teeth. Clara was cleverer than Durham. Probably Grandma Ambrosia was cleverer than Captain Charlie Durham. Durham was not clever. He killed 1,000 people to save one woman he did not really know. Clara's grandmother Ambrosia knew that knew what could happen when an Englishman decides you need an education. It was bad enough that Captain Charlie Durham, who had just arrived in Jamaica, got his landlady's daughter Ambrosia pregnant in May 1906. He also wanted to teach her something as well. He wants to teach me, said Ambrosia to her mother. She put her hand over her stomach and tried to look as innocent as possible. Why does he want to teach me? 3 times a week, replied her mother. And don't ask me why, but God knows you need some educating. You don't ask why when a handsome gentleman like Mr. Durham wants to help you. So Ambrosia Bowden, with Hortense inside her, ran Campton's room and returned there 3 times a week for lessons. She learned letters, numbers, the Bible, English history, and math. And when her mother was out of the house, she also learned about the human body, which was a longer lesson and usually made her laugh. Captain Durham told her that their secret child would be the cleverest black boy in Jamaica. The months passed and Ambrosia began to change. Her education lifted her, and she felt like she was better than others. Then, when Ambrosia was 5 months pregnant, Captain Durham left. Don't ask me why, said Ambrosia's mother, looking at her daughter's stomach. He just got up and went, but he left a message that you must be looked after by the church. He wants you to go see Mrs. Brenton. Mrs. Brenton was an angry Scottish woman who liked to see truth instead of church. Who liked to say truth instead of church. We are going to the truth, she said when Sunday came. You and I and the little innocent, she said, patting Ambrosia's stomach. You and the little innocent are going to hear the words of Jehovah. Jehovah, remember. For it was Mrs. Brenton who introduced the Bowdens to the Jehovah's Witnesses and the Watchover, and Hortense always believed that the moment her mother started believing, she started believing too. Then came the great earthquake of 14th January 1907. Ambrosia stood in church and prayed for the return of Charlie Durham when the world began to shake and Ambrosia started to have her baby. Then the walls began to fall, the glass blew, and Ambrosia fell down. Everybody was screaming and no one heard her. 1 day later, Durham returned. The island was destroyed and 2,000 were dead. 2,000 people were dead. Many thousands of others had lost their homes and there were huge fires in the hills, but he did not care. He only cared about Ambrosia. Only now did he realize how much he loved her. It was the Americans, not the British, who sent ships from Cuba to help the thousands who had lost their homes and had no food. The British were embarrassed about this, and so was Charlie Durham, who now knew where Ambrosia was. It did not look good that America was more prepared than England to help. So when he saw 2 American soldiers getting off their ships, he was not happy because he still thought of Jamaica as his, to help or to hurt even. So he went to King's house and asked the governor of Jamaica if he could take a black girl home with him, an educated black girl who he wanted to marry. But the governor told him there was no space on the English ship for Black women or animals. Durham was angry and reminded him that he had very little power. The arriving American ships proved that. Then he told him about the 2 American soldiers he had seen. "Is this not still our country?" he asked, talking about America. The rest is history. The governor ordered the American boats to return to Cuba, and 1,000 people died in the fires and from hunger. Yes, a little English education can be a dangerous thing. And that's the end of chapter 10. So, yeah, here is a very dark chapter in relation to Orton's history, but also Jamaica's history and the colonization and the way British soldiers, British generals considered their land and people as their property, really. They belonged to them, and they believed that strongly. And local people, Jamaican people, did not have a say, and not and even less women. The women were not. They could not argue or complain or anything. They just had to accept their fate. And luckily for Ambrosia, he loved her in a way. She was loved by a white man, so she got the education, but to a certain price. I mean, it is not clearly said, but here we're talking about rape. She's been raped by this captain. The biology lesson were probably a little bit of teaching and a bit more of a lot of practice, I think. This is why you have this phrase, the lesson lasted a little bit longer than the others. So here it's that's what it means. And it's yeah, terrible for Ambrosia and her mother. So it seems like Ambrosia survived from this earthquake, even though it's not clearly said, but with the fact that he wants, Captain Durham wants to take her back to England, then and here it's quite interesting to see that there is no answers from Ambrosia. She doesn't have any say. So here, okay, right, this is probably an opportunity for Ambrosia to have a better education, etc. But to the price of having to leave her family, she doesn't have a say in this decision. He's just decided, okay, you're gonna go with me to England. I'm gonna take you to England. So she just has to follow him, and that's it, and not say anything. So Yeah. So that's also, it's not, can we really talk about opportunity here when you have to leave your family behind? In a way, yes and no, because she's not the one who decides, who is deciding to leave, and she will have to leave her mother in Jamaica. So yeah, it's there are two ways to read this or to interpret this this phrase or this passage. Yeah. Well, I would love to hear more of what you're thinking about this chapters, these passages, whether you can join the book club and take part in the conversation, or just share your thoughts in the comments of this video, or in the comments on the Spotify podcast. You can tell me what you think about the episode, and yeah, I would love to see what you think of the story of Hortense's mother, and yeah, just the characters, behavior, and what's happening, the discrimination, the dialogues as well, from the Chalfins, there are so, but this is the tricky thing here, is the Chalfins are so lovely and supportive, and they want to help these children, and in a way their family in need, but not necessarily the right way, and the discourse, or the way to address, or Mrs. Chalfins Joyce, is very the way she speaks to Clara is condescending, and not necessarily condescending, but she ask her to, if she can just call her by her first name. She's very comfortable with her, and you don't see this similar approach towards Clara, who is more who feels beneath her, and in a way that she owes her. Owing something to someone, it means that someone helped you, and now you have to give back in return. So she is more she's more in the position of owing her something, and having to then being in the same unequal stand here. So yeah, lot to think about, and I look forward to discuss this in our live tomorrow. So tomorrow morning, it's going to be our second session of this live workshop on white teeth, and I can't wait to discuss these chapters read this week. I hope you enjoyed this live reading, and make sure you subscribe to the book club to join us. And also, just to remind you again that the Jane Eyre workshop is available now to purchase on my website. So go and click on the link in the description to have access to it. And in the meantime, I wish you a beautiful evening, and I will see you on Wednesday for Wednesday, 26th of June, for a new live reading session. We will read chapters 11 and 12 on Wednesday. Yeah. Bye-bye.